Iuno was officially announced to be in the second phase of version 2.6, and based on the information provided in the livestream, she seems to be an error version of Shorekeeper, which can make her quite versatile and can be slotted into many teams that you can possibly build in the future. So in today's video, I'll be going over everything covered in the livestream footage about Iuno, including the ones that you might have missed, her best teams, damage potential, weapon options, and finally my pull recommendations to help you prepare and get an idea of what you should expect when she officially drops in the game. Let's begin with Iuno's playstyle. The devs confirmed that she can transition between two states when she's on the field. She can use an enhanced type of resonance skill to enter a special state called Lunar Cycle Half Moon and create a half moon domain. The half moon domain can be easily visualized by the blue aura around her, which looks like she's underwater, upon casting the enhanced resonance skill. It was also confirmed that the lunar cycle half moon state is used to regenerate 40 stacks so that she can use her 40 circuit, but it wasn't really clear what the half moon domain actually does or how it affects your teammate. However, when the half moon domain was active, jumping with Iuno will enter a special state called the Lunar Cycle New Moon, where her weapon transforms into a bow that you can use to attack enemies and heals your teammate, but it will drain her 40 stacks. This part of the livestream footage actually provided a good representation of her combat abilities. You can see that she was already in the Lunar Cycle New Moon state, which is meant to do damage. And if you take a look at this part right here, this is how her 40 stacks looks like. The Resonance Liberation part was a bit confusing because the devs said that she can use her Liberation to recover 40 stacks and automatically enter the Lunar Cycle state, but it wasn't really specific whether it's the Lunar Cycle Half Moon meant for regenerating 40 stacks or Lunar Cycle New Moon, which is meant to do damage if she has 40 stacks. But in this part of the footage, we can see that she's still in the Lunar Cycle New Moon state, which is meant to do damage since her weapon looks like a bow after using her Liberation. So for now, we can assume that using her Liberation automatically transitions into the state that is meant to do damage. This means that Iuno has two different playstyles. The first one revolves around generating 40 stacks with her Liberation and most likely an intro skill, just like other hybrid units such as Chakona that fits her combat role. With this playstyle, the focus will most likely be on consuming the 40 stacks to do damage and outro as quickly as possible to buff other teammates. But the second playstyle is where you can freely transition between the two states to regenerate 40 stacks and do damage. So in simple terms, Iuno is made to fulfill a sub-DPS buffer role to buff other teammates like Augusta since they were paired up together in the livestream, and she can also act as a main DPS where she can have her own sub-DPS buffers to buff her damage since she has a special state meant to recover 40 stacks when she does damage in addition to casting her Liberation, making her a high-value pull for your account. Buffing capabilities. Iuno can use this special animation under certain conditions to create a full moon domain, and it has the ability to heal and grant a damage bonus to the character that stays in the special domain as confirmed by the devs. The damage bonus was not specific, so it can either be a universal damage bonus for all types of scaling like basic attack damage, Liberation, heavy attack, and resonance skill damage dealt by your teammate. It's also possible that it can specifically be error damage bonus buff since it matches her attribute, but I don't see that happening since we already have Chakona who can provide up to 39% error damage bonus to the entire team. So there's a high chance that it can be a universal type of damage bonus that applies to all damage scaling types for the character that is on the field. Couple that with the healing that she can provide and she becomes a top tier sustain unit and damage buffer just like Shorekeeper. In this part of the livestream footage, she was also teamed up with Augusta, indicating that there is a high chance that her outro skill can buff heavy attack damage, so Jian mains can finally stop waiting for a 5-star sub DPS buffer to take his damage to the next level. Since Jian is an old unit with a low damage potential compared to more recent units, there is a high chance that Iuno could be the first hybrid unit to provide heavy attack damage amplification effects from her outro skill that is much higher than the 38% from Mortefi and the usual 45% from hybrid units like Brand and Changli. Coupling that with the universal damage bonus that Iuno provides can raise Jian's damage output quite significantly so that he can compete with gradually increasing HP of enemies in the Tower of Adversity and Windprint Waste. So if my analysis is correct, Jian mains are eating good in version 2.6. Damage potential. Since we've already established that Iuno can fulfill the role of a damage buffer and a main DPS, her damage output should be on par with other hybrid units like Chacona, or perhaps even higher since Iuno is a more recent unit compared to Chacona. The livestream footage actually gave us a brief sneak peek of her damage potential. At this part of the footage, you can see that she's in the lunar cycle new moon state, which is meant to do damage, and her basic attack press was hitting around 47k, which was absolutely insane considering the fact that she provides healing and buffing capabilities to your teammate. However, do keep in mind that this part of the livestream footage was from the Fantasies of 1000 Gateways, so other special buffs may be in effect, but still, it was quite impressive. Team building. Iuno's team building options are looking pretty good since she can be slotted into literally any team if she ends up providing universal buffing capabilities as I mentioned earlier, and her ability to heal all teammates. But to get the most out of her buffing capabilities, running her with Augusta, Zani, and Jian will be recommended since her Ultra skill will most likely provide heavy attack damage amplification. In case you're a little bit confused about the Zani team, let me go a little bit deeper. Phoebe's Ultra skill that amplifies Spectrofrazzle damage by 100% is not lost if you swap out the active character, meaning that Phoebe's Ultra skill always applies to the active character and does not behave like the usual Ultra skills from other hybrid units like Brand and Changli. The reason why this detail is very important is because you have to start your rotations with Phoebe, then intro with Iuno, who's going to receive the 100% Spectrofrazzle damage amplification, but it won't provide any benefit for Iuno in terms of damage output, and then you intro with Zani, where Zani can now get the heavy attack damage amplification Ultra buff from Iuno in addition to the 100% Spectrofrazzle damage amplification from Phoebe. This ensures that Zani gets to keep all the damage amplification buffs in case swapping out will let you lose the heavy attack damage amplification from Iuno. So in a Zani team composition, Iuno will be the one to replace Showkeeper. And this is where some of you guys may be thinking that it'll probably result in a damage loss, but if you really think about it, Showkeeper's main value in a Zani Phoebe team composition is not really the crit rate or crit damage buff, but rather the healing that she can provide. The Eternal Radiance set provides 20% crit rate, which allows you to run crit damage full cost even if you're running Zani's signature weapon, which also has a crit damage substat, meaning that if you're able to roll double crit on all your echo pieces, you should be getting around 50 crit rate on 300 crit damage even before you get the 20% crit rate from the Eternal Radiance 5-piece effect, leading to a 70% crit rate and 300 crit damage when Zani uses her special skill that applies Heliacal Ember or Spectrofrazzle on the enemy, which triggers the 20% crit rate on the Eternal Radiance set. The 25% crit damage that Showkeeper provides does not also provide that much value if you've already hit 300 crit damage, leading to diminishing returns. So it makes sense to prioritize heavy attack damage amplification effect, which will most likely come from Iuno's Ultra skill. For main DPS Iuno, it's a bit early and difficult to recommend teams since we didn't get any hints from Kuro Games like we did with Augusta in Windprint Waste. But the easily accessible character available that almost anyone can get their hands on is Alto, since he's a 4-star character and provides 23% arrow damage amplification from his Ultra skill. The best part is that Alto can also benefit from Iuno's damage buffs, whether it ends up being arrow damage bonus or universal type of damage bonus, making his jump shots hit much harder to increase your team's overall damage output. So you can start building Alto if your main focus is to play Iuno as a main DPS. I'll leave my dedicated guide for Alto in the description if you're interested, but a follow-up video diving deeper into her team building will be provided once her damage type scaling is confirmed. Weapon options. Since Iuno is a hybrid unit, you should be running a 5-star weapon to take advantage of her decent damage potential. My first recommendation will be Verity's Handle due to the crit rate substat, and it provides liberation damage bonus from the passive. Hybrid units who fits Iuno's combat role like Chacona usually have a new type liberation that does a lot of damage with a very large scaling, so even if Iuno does not scale off liberation damage, you can still get more value from this weapon in terms of damage output. Second priority will be Tragic Comedy, mainly as a crit rate stat stick if Iuno does not scale off heavy attack damage. The third priority will be Blazing Justice as a crit damage stat stick, but do keep in mind that if Iuno has crit damage on her skill tree, you'll encounter some issues with getting a decent crit ratio. I don't really recommend Abyss Surges due to the lack of crit rate or crit damage substat, but feel free to use it if that's the only 5-star option that you have available. So with everything I've analyzed so far, here are my pull recommendations to help you make good use of your pulls as far as account improvement is concerned. The middle tower of the Tower of Adversity was announced to be getting 2 additional floors, and this can be a problem depending on the type of account that you have. If you have every character in the game, you should be fine because Premium Cartethia, Monofusion teams including Brandt, Chun-Li, Lupa, and Frolova teams do not depend on Shorekeeper and Verena, meaning that there will be less competition for their universal buffing capabilities. But if you're a low spender or free-to-play, your limited access to more characters on your account is now a problem because all your team building will most likely have Verena or Shorekeeper, who will run out of vigor if you prioritize using Verena and Shorekeeper in the middle tower, since it now requires 2 teams to beat it instead of 1. So you need Iuno to fill the slot of Verena and Shorekeeper if you have at least 4 damage dealers on your account, not only to keep you alive with healing, but to buff the damage of every character that you pair her with in case your damage buffs for the active character is universal. That'll be all for my Iuno pre-release analysis and pull value breakdown. Hope this video provided value to you, and if it did, leave a like and subscribe to help support the channel because it's free and you can always change your mind. Be sure to also join our Discord community if you're having any issues with the game or you just want to place a show or hang out. Link will be in the pinned comment below. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.